Fala, gente! Antes da gente começar o nosso episódio, eu quero te apresentar o nosso patrocinador de hoje, Donley Martins. Ele que é consultor de grandes empresas, especialista em sucessão familiar, resolução de conflitos. Então, se você quer conhecer um pouco mais do trabalho dele, entre em contato com o número que está aparecendo aqui. Aproveite o episódio.
Olá pessoal, bem-vindos a mais um Kingdom Podcast. É o nosso bate-papo aqui com o Ministério de Empreendedoras aqui da Primeira Igreja Batista de Curitiba. Eu tô aqui emprestado aqui, só cobrindo aqui a agenda, né, do Lucas, do Pigato, que você já conhece, mas muito bem acompanhada da Thais também, que é a líder do ministério aqui do Kingdom, junto com o Ismael. E hoje, gente, a gente tem aqui uns convidados muito especiais. Nós estamos gravando esse podcast aproveitando todo o movimento aqui da conferência Construindo a Minha Equipe, organizada aqui pelo GKPN, Marketplace, e a gente está com um convidado, um casal aqui de convidados muito especiais. Então, a gente vai fazer esse bate-papo aqui todo em inglês. Vamos tentar em inglês, né? Você nos perdoa aí se a gente cometeu alguns erros no vocabulário, tá? Mas a gente vai fazer em inglês depois aí, colocar uma tradução para você acompanhar também esse nosso bate-papo, ok? Vamos lá. So here we are, guys, with Mercy Niwe. She who has a great experience with financial and a world view of stuff, you know, regarding banks and financial and etc. And her husband, also Moses, who comes from the area of teaching, university, technology, IT, right? If I'm right, okay. And we have this privilege to talk to them a little bit about team development, technology, financial, which is a very important area in our businesses. So if you're a business owner or if you work, you have to have a lot of attention in those areas, right? Technology and financial and money, etc. So we have them here to talk to us a little about those subjects. So I don't know, Thais, do you want to start with your first question or?
Yeah. I can do it. So again, thank you so much for being here. We are so glad you came, and it's so good to see what you're doing and to hear your story. So people that are here around, they would like to know where you come from and a little bit of your story. So maybe if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, it would be great.
Great. Do you want to go first?
Okay. So again, it's such a pleasure to be here with you all. As we were mentioning this earlier on with our interactions, that it's good to be home, family, with friends. So we are originally from Uganda. That's the eastern part of Africa. Right now we live in the DC area, Washington, DC area. That is on the east coast of the US, next to Virginia, Maryland. Washington, DC is called the DMV area. And so we have two children, a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. And we have been in that area for over coming to 18 years. We are both professionals. My wife will tell you more about what she does. Myself, I'm in the IT technology field, education area, and been doing different things, consulting, worked with different organizations. And so, yeah, hopefully we can get to share some more insights about that area.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Albert, and thank you so much, Thais. We are excited to be here in Brazil and to talk to you business owners. My name is Mercy, as everyone has said, and this is my lovely husband, Moses. He already talked about where we live. Maybe background, we also grew up in Uganda in a church called Watoto Church, and now in Washington, D.C. area, we go to Fairfax Community Church, which we love. So we have family everywhere, and now we have gotten new families here. So what do we do? What do I do? I'm an economist by training, but right now I'm more actually working with people and culture. Really, how do we work with people? How do we invest in people, human capital? But also, how do we build a right culture, work culture that will attract teams to continue working with us? So I have interesting training backgrounds, but I started off working in finance in the private sector, went in designing and monitoring programs, development programs, and right now I'm more into strategy, building strategies for organizations and seeing how we can support you deliver on your outcomes.
Wow, no, that's great. That's awesome. Mercy, let me make you a question. I understand that you are in a very strategic position in such an important subject, which is financial, banking, loans, rates, etc. And I believe that you have a great perspective about how companies, small businesses, how they can make a better use of this area, this department, the resources in their own contexts. You know, what are the rights or wrongs regarding financial decisions in their businesses?
Well, that's a very good question. Finances, you can't talk finances without talking budgeting and planning. Mm-hmm. So it's really good to start with a strategy, start with a vision. Where, before you even look at the money, where do you want to go and how will you get there? So that is really having your strategic plan. So once you lay out your strategic plan, be very clear on how much is it going to cost you for everything. So again, that's laying out a budget, because the do not do's is you getting money and just starting to spend. Just because I have $100,000, let me start something. You need to start with, what do I want to do before you go to the budget? Mm-hmm. So once you identify what you want to do, have a strategic plan, make sure you know what exactly, in my strategy, what are the 5 things I want to achieve? Mm-hmm. So those 5 things that I want to achieve, how will I achieve them? How much will it cost me to achieve them? And the cost will include your human resource, the labor that you're going to use. The cost will also include, it's a cost of money if you're going to be dealing in dollars, US dollars, but you have Brazilian money. Mm-hmm. What is the cost there? So you really work out, what are my fixed costs? Paying my rent, everything, the employees, and then what profit do I want to make out of this? And of course, with all that, if you do not have a finance background, it's really important to invest in someone who has done finance to make sure they run that with you. But where do you start? Have a plan. Mm-hmm. Where do you end? Do not get into indebtedness that is not building towards your vision. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen so many people end up starting businesses just because someone has given you money, you start a business. That is the wrong way of doing it. You start with a vision. You start with something, having a passion. Mm-hmm. If you want to start a school, you start from there. I want to start a school. Carry out, what are the demographics? How many people do I want to reach? And how do I want to scale? Because you might have a vision of, I want 20,000 students in 1 year. That is also not achievable. You know, so you start with a plan, again with a plan to scale. So the budget, financing, it's all intertwined in a strategy, making sure you have a strategic plan on what you want to execute.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So in your perspective, what do you think that the business owners, they tend to do more wrongs? You know, what usually they tend to fail in this, I don't know, perhaps lack of planning, lack of vision? What are your intake on that?
So I started being in business. I was brought up by 2 parents who are both in business. My mother is a businesswoman. My father is a businessman. And at a young age, I had to be involved in my parents' business. Mm-hmm. And at a young age, my mother knew that I was good with numbers. So I became the finance person for the business. But one of the things I saw that why people ended up failing, or why my mother's startup failed in the beginning, is really not knowing your market. So if you're starting out a business, for example, again, I'll use a simple one, a school. You want to start a school, but you live in an elderly neighborhood where there are no children. So already you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think that one of the biggest mistakes we make is identifying, what's my market? You know, once you identify your market, then how do I reach it? Is it a saturated market? Are there too many schools in the area that you want to go in? And if it's too many schools, what's a niche you want to reach? If, for example, you want to start teaching a foreign language, maybe that's something that is unique to you, your value proposition that you're going to use to actually start your business. So one of the biggest mistakes, I think, is just getting the idea just because I like this, let me start it, without identifying, is there a market for it? What is the value proposition? What do I bring that everyone else hasn't yet brought on the table? So if we have a joke in Uganda where we grew up, there are markets, and I'm sure in Brazil you have markets where everyone is selling the same thing. You're selling tomatoes, you're selling mangoes, and you're all in one place. What makes you stand out? So how different are your tomatoes from your neighbor's tomatoes? And should you be working on tomatoes or should you try mangoes? So I think finding your value proposition. What do I bring? What problem am I trying to solve? I think that's the first question. And people you haven't identified a problem, and then you start a business. What problem am I trying to solve? And who is there to be my market as I solve this problem?
So good to hear you talking. And there's something that I would like to ask. It's like sometimes when people concerning even our public, Christian entrepreneurs, sometimes they think that if they start something that they think that it's faith-driven thing, they just don't need to plan as much because all they need is faith, and that's so not true. Now we know that we need to look for the excellence. And I remember that I just heard you talking that you came from a background that aligns everything, a lot of excellence and a lot of faith, a lot of so you talk about Jesus and love, but you talk about the commitment to be good, to be excellent in everything. So I think that's the key. A key point, and something that I just said, for example, everybody is selling something, tomatoes, or why don't you try mangoes? But for example, you came from Uganda and now you are successful in US. So the thing is, something I don't know, at one point in your life, you thought, I might be an answer, or I might be the one that could actually change something. There is a change. There is something I can do. And I believe that it has something related to your faith or to your journey. So I don't know, when you saw this turning, and the same, I would say, I would actually ask the same thing for you, because you study, you had your master's degree outside of the country. How did it happen? When you figured out that things could be different, and I don't know, just when your heart starts beating to this to do something, to live something different, and everything just according to God's plan. So it's a beautiful story. So if you could actually tell us a little bit about it, it'll be great. So
I think he will talk about the journey, the faith journey, but I want to respond to something you talked about, that if I have faith, things will just happen. And the Bible is also so clear that without faith, it's impossible to please God, but also faith without action is dead. So faith without action is dead. So faith plus action. And I always like to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, when God created, he spoke the word and everything came into being. But the commission that he gave Adam and Eve, go be fruitful and multiply. He didn't tell them to just go and, just have faith and believe. They were supposed to go and work the land, till the land and multiply. So again, when you start something, and when you know that you're going out for something, to really have that audience of one. Again, someone told me something sometime back, that if you look in the mirror at the end of the day, if that person is happy that you're looking at, that I really, really did my very best today, you will sleep good. So what is doing our best is waking up. If my job is to sell tomatoes, I'll go back to my tomatoes. Be the excellent seller of tomatoes that I can be the best that I can be, again, with all the excellence. And I will hand over to Moses to talk about our faith journey and how God led us to what we are doing.
Yeah, talk about faith. Faith is, indeed, we all say it in terms of faith and action, that they go together. So we had this sense. From back in Uganda, we felt like God was calling us to something outside of Uganda. At the time, we didn't know exactly what it was, but part of that developing the faith, maybe you could relate it to a business idea. Some of you, maybe somebody started out with a business idea. You felt this like, I need to be doing something, and you don't know what it is. You don't know when it's going to happen. So starting with just putting it down. And this is wisdom from the Bible. It says something about writing down the vision and make it plain, that those who can see it may be able to run with it. So because when you start putting things down, this is a practical part. It will also help you think through, that planning you're talking about. It's really articulating, saying, okay, this is the vision, this is the mission, this is the goals, this is how I'm going to have a timeline and say, from this time to this time, I should be doing this. From this time to this time, I should be doing this. And then you will start being accountable. You make yourself accountable, and those others that you would share that vision with can also call you to accountability and say, okay, you said I'm going to be doing this in, 3 years. How are things going now? And have you made that progress, or you have not made that progress? And these are things that were happening to us too. And as we were putting out our faith, trusting God, we were making those steps, those necessary steps, putting in applications, saying, okay, this is the vision, this is where we want to go, but putting down the applications. It can be the business owner, reaching out, studying your market, surveying, figuring out, is there a competition in this area that I'm going to go into? What are the competitors offering? What am I going to offer differently from my competitors? So all this we're putting down as we're going through that process, and as God would have us, God working with us, and it's a partnership. This is the way God looks at it. He wants us to look at it. It's a partnership. We're in partnership with God. He's in partnership with us. We are moving. He's moving, and there are many examples again in the Bible where he would command people, but he'd be like, until you make those steps, things are not going to be happening, So like the time of the splitting of the sea, when they were carrying in Joshua's time, they had these priests carrying the ark. And until they put their feet, the water was still there, until they put their feet there. But that was an action they had to do. They stepped, and then the water started to split. So that's the practical bit we decided to do. And then we'd see those doors opening up. And so our journey led us through Europe, Sweden, and then finally to the US. And we started seeing, without going so much into the details, but started seeing those doors open. But it was, again, a partnership where the things we did and the things that we would not be able to do, but trusting God again. And God would come through.
Oh, no, that's great. That's great, guys. I was thinking here, we talked about faith, about action, and sometimes when someone wants to start a business, the person may think, man, should I need to be more equipped? Do I have everything that I need to start in this endeavor, or should I go and, start and then I will see afterwards? So regarding education, especially you, Moses, you're from the university, you are teaching, IT, technology. I remember that back in the day, everybody had to go to university, had to go a higher education, and then you would start something or working somewhere, etc., etc. Nowadays, you can go to the internet and learn a whole profession or job, etc., and start your business from scratch on the internet without needing a higher education diploma and etc. So I'm curious about your perspective, about your side of views on this matter.
That's a very great discussion point. Actually, we in the education arena, we are also already rethinking education. We are rethinking, especially for the technology field. It's like, do we still need these 4-year degrees, especially in the US? College education is very costly, very, very expensive. And there are many of these companies, businesses that realize, we don't need this college, maybe graduates. So we have certifications that have come up, short programs, 6 months, like focused, on this specific area. Amazon has been a leader in looking for those kinds of people, and many other companies. So yeah, that is changing rapidly. And so in terms of even the business arena, you don't really, we're in what we call the information age. So we are not limited in terms of information. Anything you want to know, anything you want to learn about, you can have access to it. We actually have what we call information overload. It's like we have too much information.
Yeah.
So anything you can search up, and any topic you want information about, you can get as much information and too much of it. So in simple terms, you don't need to wait to get a formal degree to start a business. There is not to say that the formal degrees are completely obsolete. They have their place, and they certainly people in certain industries, certain fields where you still need to spend that time there. But again, depending on your business idea, it's going to be much more dependent on the person, how self-driven in terms of how much you really own this. Because this is what I tell the students, college students that I would teach. I say, like in the field of IT, the things we teach, they're constantly evolving. They're constantly changing. Technology is one of the fastest growing industries or areas. So I say, by the time you finish, the stuff we're teaching you is not going to be as relevant. And so you need to develop more, you need to focus more on the skill of how to gain this knowledge on the go yourself. And this is what you need even in the business arena, is to be able to figure out, to be self-driven. And there are many tools, many platforms. You can get into those communities, network communities that are specific to your area, where they will share with you information that is targeted to your specific area, that will be very relevant to your specific area. So, and these you can sign up, for example, on the social networking sites. You can sign up, you can get what is called listservs, but you can get on specific lists where they will send you specific information on what's going on in that market. So again, that goes back to you as a person. Are you in that place where you're motivated enough to at least make yourself available in these platforms, in these networking communities, and say, yes, I'll put myself as a say, can you provide that information, that education? And it will be built and something that you keep evolving into, over time, you keep growing into, you keep changing over time.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Mercy, I was thinking here that you might share a little bit about your routine. What's a good day like or a bad day like? Perhaps you're calling Moses, hey, Moses, I'm here. There is a country on the verge of bankruptcy, but we need to take the kids to soccer practice. I'm just kidding, but how can we put the problems under the proper perspective, especially financially? It's a sensitive matter, because business owners, sometimes they have to struggle, they have difficulties with financials, and they put this problem way over the top, and sometimes they start to feel ill and sick, and sometimes we heard sad stories about people taking their own lives because of financial struggles, so I know it's tough, it's hard, it's part of our life as business owners, but how can we put those problems in the proper perspective, how to deal with these situations that we may face?
Wow, well said. That could preach. I think I always tell people it's always about perspective. It's always about perspective. There is someone worse off than you. There is someone better off than you. When you wake up every day remembering that it's about perspective, it changes the way you look at your business. To know that the eternity of life here on earth is 100 years. So for me to lose my sleep over something, and you need to talk to yourself. These are reflections. So what does my day look like? My ideal day is to wake up and really have quiet time. Just reflect. I'm such a planner, but of course we know sometimes plans go off the way, but if I start with acknowledging that I'm not in control. And what am I in control of? It's just my effort, the effort I'm putting in that day, my response to whatever is coming to me today, and my attitude. Those are things I'm in control over. Everything else, I am someone of faith. I believe God is in control of what I'm doing. So how do I start off? I start the day with really committing everything I'm going to do, even my own attitude, because sometimes I might think I'm in charge of my attitude and my kid just screams and that ruins everything. So I just like to put that before God. And we've gone through some tough times, both being away from home. We grew up in Uganda and we are far away from our families. That is already, can cause strain because we have, his dad passed away, for example, at a very young age, 69, and we just wake up and we get that phone call, far away, and we have to drop everything and get onto the next flights to go for the funeral. So life throws things at you. Recently, our pastor said something, and, we are going through the book of Job. He said, life is difficult. So if you start from a default of life is easy, then you will be frustrated when things get hard. But if you start from a default that it is really difficult, and there are things I can't change, but there are things that I can change, my attitude has really, I love to have an attitude of gratitude. I'm always very grateful. If things are going wrong, he knows I always tell him it could be worse. Once I was on a flight and I lost my ring, my wedding ring, and I called him, my wedding ring. And, it was very, very cheap. We got married when we didn't have anything, but I love the ring. And his response, again, talking about what we can control, he told me, I'm glad you still have your finger. So again, with your business, if you've lost everything, I'm so glad you still have your life. I'm so glad you still have the air to breathe. It could always, always be tough. So this is what I would speak to someone who is going through a tough time right now. You feel like everything is lost. You might have invested, all your money is gone. It's not over until it's over, until God says it's over. You can pick up and start again. And I say that from a place of where we both packed our bags, left family with nothing, and went to a foreign land. And God has been faithful to us. We have not lacked a single day. We have had everything that we have needed for that moment. Have we had everything we've wanted? No, but everything we have needed, the Lord has provided. So it might be as tough as I am sick and my business is going under. It's not over. As long as we still have breath, there is still hope. So my day, how does it start? It starts with that, speaking to myself and knowing that it could always be worse. Thank you, Lord. We have old friends, our neighbors who we met during COVID. Every morning we'd walk and we'd meet these 4 elderly ladies. One is 87. But they would joke. They're like, I woke up and asked my leg, are you working? My hand, are you working? Every part was working and I'm here walking. The day is good. So it's just the attitude. Life does not consist in the balance of all these things. If your business is thriving, hallelujah. If it is failing, hallelujah anyway. Because he who has begun a good thing, and that's my God, when he begins a good thing, he is faithful. He is faithful. I may not always be faithful, but he is faithful to bring it to fruition.
Wow, amen. Wow. Sometimes we Christians, we tend to think that just because the fact that we are Christians and that we are following God, that we'll have this natural, supernatural repellent of troubles and tribulations. But, we're going to have trouble. Yes. It's part of being alive. So,
but be of good cheer.
Exactly.
Because our God has overcome.
Exactly. So how you react to those problems, right? When you have hope, when you have, prayer time or a quiet time, or when you have to, you have hope to tend to. So this is the way. Sometimes we think that no, the fact that I'm a Christian now, I won't have any more troubles, and I will be always prosperous and successful, and that's not really true. Right?
Yeah.
So, well, let me shift gears here. You said something about control and what we have to plan, and regarding people, teams and staff, So what's your intake, Mercy, about staff and equipment and teams, and how do you have any rules or do's and not do's, and what is your perspective on building team around you?
Building a team around us, that is the $1 million question. I wish I had the top five things, but every day is different, and every day it offers different opportunities and challenges. What I have learned about building teams is, again, you have to have your clear vision on where you want to go. I can't emphasize that enough. And your outcomes. As I've worked in different organizations, I always say that I surround myself with people who are smarter than me in the area, so I do my own SWOT analysis. That is strengths, weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. So carry out your own SWOT. What are your strengths? Then don't attract people who are just having the same strength, because it's not going to add to your business. So what are your weaknesses? That is the area, for example, I'm so blessed to have my husband. His strength is he's a saver. I am the spender. So imagine if I had gotten a husband who is also a spender, I would be bankrupt, So my daughter recently joked, because I am, and with all humility, generous. I love to give, I enjoy giving. So my 12-year-old daughter recently said, I'm so glad you're married to dad, because we'd be so broke. Because the dad is very wise in that way, that he likes to save. But God had that beauty of bringing us together, because we need that balance. We need to give, and we need to save, we need to invest. So again, finding what are my weaknesses, being real with yourself, and then really attracting team members who have the strengths where you are weak. And for example, my assistant at work, she's fantastic when it comes to work-life balance. When she says, because there are times when I'm running for meetings after meeting and I forget to eat, she will stop a meeting and comes like, you haven't eaten, and she'll bring me a fruit, and she's strong in that way, and the fuel she helps me with keeps me going. So that was one way when I was interviewing her, and I realized she has that strength of really keeping people in balance. So that is a weakness that I had, because I can work and work and work. That really attracted me to her. So seeing what are your weaknesses, I don't surround myself with people who are strong like me in areas. So because I'm very good with strategy, I'm very good in finance, I'm very good in budgeting. As much as I like to spend, I never spend beyond my means. So I'm very balanced when it comes to finances. But there are things like, I'm in communications right now. That's one of the jobs I'm working in. But I don't enjoy writing, yet it's a job I'm doing. So I had to, my team is built with extremely very good writers. Just because I realized that is something that, I'm not shy before people to speak, but I find it painful to sit down and write. But this is a job I have to do. So my team, I make sure I'm hiring people who are smarter than me, people who are so optimistic. I do not like being around negative people. So, so I make a criteria of who are the people who are going to really help me succeed in, either it's your business or it's a team that you're building. So I come up with, after I've done my SWOT analysis, who are the people who will help us get to the opportunities? So for example, if you want to start business, you're in Brazil and you want to start business in the US, maybe you need to hire an American on your team. If you want to start a business in Africa, maybe you need an African on your team. Again, look at the opportunities. Then look at the threats. The threats right now, cybersecurity, my husband will tell you. Hire a very young, very good person in IT who is alert. My weakness, I'm not on social media. But guess what? I surround myself with people on my team who are on top of everything. And my assistant will be the first one to text me and tell me this is going on, So I'm not seated there looking at social media the whole day, but I have someone who is updating me on that. So again, really surrounding yourself with people who will bring out the best in you, not pull you down. Not, every day you need a team that is going to be cheering you on, but you also need to be cheering them on. How do you build them? And that dynamic, I always say it's like a dance, because, you're the manager, the employees, you have to be really supporting each other for you to move the vision forward.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's great. And we as leaders, we shouldn't be afraid, of people that we want to bring, because perhaps they might be better than me in certain area or certain, ability or skill, etc. And they tend to hire, low performing people because they feel threat.
Then you won't advance your, Again, it comes back to the place of being humble yourself, and humility is also knowing, these are my strengths. The left hand can't do the same thing the right hand is doing. So if you realize that I am right-handed, but I need a strong left hand, then you're not intimidated by the left hand because your right hand is already strong and you know who you are. But I've also seen some people who are intimidated by either a young person coming or, that is a very dangerous place to be as a business owner, as a team leader. Because then you're the one who's bringing the downfall to your organization. Will you always have people you trust or who trust you? Not, maybe not. But the thing is, your goal should be to continue to build trust and to also be trusted as a leader.
Great, awesome. Thais, can I go on, or do you have any insights?
There's something that we were talking before about being a missionary, and then actually to sharing the gospel wherever you are, all the time. Whenever we have the call, or receive the call, we need just to share. And at the workplace, in the marketplace, we also need to share the gospel. And there are many ways to do it. And I remember that Moses mentioned that he has this password. I would like you to share with me. If it is, what's the password? I thought it's so clever. It's so much here.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you for the question. It's what I shared earlier on. It's these are ideas from God Himself, because the mission that He's given us is His mission. It's His vision. And so He's going to give us the ideas. He's going to give us the tools. So we need to be constantly depending on Him, even as we do this. So every situation, every circumstance, every area is unique. People are unique. Environments are unique, business areas are unique, and so this is why we all need that personal walk with Jesus through His Spirit. Because He's real, He will show you, He will tell you things that have never even come to anybody's mind. He will show you things that people don't know. So that idea you talked about, the password thing, it's something that He showed me. And I'll tell you another testimony about it, actually, is that so this student, so what I used to do with this password thing when he first gave me that idea is when I would set up exams, I would put passwords that would be words that would stir up people's minds or thought process. So I would say something like redemption or redeemer, as a password. And these are words yes, they're there, they are words. But little did I know that even as I was kept putting these words. So I met one of these students, and this was after he had finished my class many years afterwards. And I met him in a park. I think he was with his girlfriend at the time. I was sitting at the bench. And I think he had already finished with the school and everything. Is yeah, I remember you. You're the professor who would give us those passwords. You're communicating something, and it's and it never dawned on me, again, talking about what God can do, when it's, I think, honey, is that you mentioned it about little is much when God is in it. How God can take something small like that and have it as an influence and an impact in somebody. Talk about kingdom mindset and affect somebody for years later on. It's like this person gave us a password that made me think that, and we don't even know sometimes the fruits of how far this can go. But again, this is an encouragement to all of us that it may not be passwords, of course, for all of us, but there's going to be something. Yes. And that something only Jesus knows, God knows. And as we build that relationship, as we come in close communion, union, fellowship, intimacy, oneness with Him, He will start to show us these things. And these things, He will make it natural, where it's like, it's just like, it's like part of you, because that's what people are also looking for. People are looking for authenticity. Like, you're not just trying to fake this stuff. You're not trying to just make this stuff up or something, but it's like there's an influence. This person is suddenly being influenced. Something is going on, and they can sense it. So, again, that connection, personal connection with Him, as that is continuous, He will continue it will flow out, and then, and He will get the glory, He will get the praise, which is what it's about,
And maybe just remembering that we are the body. I like using the analogy of the body. Someone might be the mouthpiece, another one will be the hands, But in everything we do, just to act like Jesus would. So if you have a business, for example, are you someone of integrity? Do people know that actually when I lend money to so-and-so, she will pay back? Do people know that you're kind? When you go to a restaurant, are you the one tipping the most? Are you eager to do good to everyone? And that's, the Bible tells us, then Jesus says, then they will know that you're my followers. So many times, even missions in the marketplace, I have learned to be the very best that Christ would want me to be. Again, through my response. People see she responds differently. If I'm getting in the building, for example, and I'm greeting every security guard, I'm smiling at them, I'm being kind to everyone. Like, there's something different about that lady. People know that you never say a cuss word, you're always, your integrity, they can vouch for it. You're preaching more. Someone actually said, preach always, if possible, not with words, something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but with our actions. And, Paul says, he plants the seeds, Apollos waters, but the harvest belongs to God. So which seeds have I planted today? And there's something I always say, how do I measure success in my business? How do I measure success in my day? You asked earlier, and I like this saying, don't measure success by how much harvest you have, but how many seeds you planted. And those seeds are the seeds of kindness, gentleness, generosity, all those seeds that we can be planting. One day, someone else who uses the mouth to preach will come, and it will be fertile ground. Because Thais would have put a seed, Albert would have watered, and then I come and talk to the person, I tell them, oh, I love Jesus. And all these things come to, So that's why it's really important that it's not one person who is going to lead someone to Christ and you think it's been salvation, the person has been waiting for me. No, someone planted a seed, another one has watered, and the harvest is really belonging to God. So my part is every day at the mission ground, let me plant a seed. Sometimes God might give me the pleasure of seeing a harvest. Someone might come to me and receive Christ, but that is not every day. In Uganda, it was easier. We would go and preach door to door, and the harvest was the low-hanging fruit because it's a country that is full of faith, people who have laid foundations of faith. So you find low-hanging fruit. But when you go to places where people have never heard of the gospel, your actions have to speak louder than your words.
Wow. Great. That's awesome. Você está ouvindo aí o Kingdom Podcast, esse que é o podcast aqui do Ministério de Empresários, Empreendedores, você que trabalha aí na área, né, de negócios, que você possa estar sendo abençoado nesse momento com esses convidados especiais que estão junto aqui com a gente. Estou aqui com a Thais, que é líder desse ministério, e a gente vai continuar o nosso papo aqui com o Moses, que é o marido da Mercy, que vai estar ministrando aqui numa conferência de liderança aqui com gente do mundo todo. Moses, let me take the opportunity, since we have you here from the IT, technology, university, etc. We know that for businesses, technology it's really important, right? So, but sometimes it's hard to keep up. Everything is changing, you know, and if you stand still in time, you're gonna be left behind. So. But on another hand, you can go rushing to things because you might, you know, overspend and waste resources or money, etc. So, what do you think would be like a good piece of advice to business owners regarding technology? How can we track and monitor and take the right step in the right moment? Because, well, we all know, right? We can see now this trend of AI. You know, we see AI all around us, and now back in the day we have the augmented reality and those goggles, and everybody thought that we would use all those goggles, but it's not a thing now. I don't know. So, what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, thank you, Alba, for that question. It's a relevant question, and yes, for business owners, we'll address it, but it's global question for everybody beside business owners. It's very important. Certainly, we know that we can't do without technology in the sense of, and this is actually what I like to also tease the students that I interact with. They say, yes, whether you like it or not, you're stuck with technology. If you're on this planet, you're going to have to deal with it. So that is something we need to get out of the way. It's like, yeah, I know not everybody appreciates technology. Not everybody, especially different age groups. Some older people, it's like, it's moved too fast. Some middle-aged people, maybe a little slower. Younger people, much faster because they've grown up in this. Yeah, and this is why I bring up those scenarios, because that also helps. So as a business owner, I imagine you interact with even in your own family, which is also another thing that you can do. If you have, for example, kids, younger kids. I hope as a dad or as a mom or something, that your kids know enough about the business, at least to have that level of interest. Because you'll be surprised at some of the solutions that can come on the table through the different sources. It can be through your kids, and I'm talking about technology. There are things that they will see, things that they may be able to tell you that you would not even see. That they will catch on much faster. So creating that platform or that environment where the people that trusted sources, just like your immediate family or something, just getting to know what you're dealing with, on a day-to-day basis. What are some of the challenges you're dealing with? Because the idea of technology is that it's a tool. We need to always remember that the technology is a tool. And we have this term that we use in technology of garbage in, garbage out. So basically we're saying the technology is not going to do the magic for you. Some people, like you said, invest lots of money. They think putting so much money in the technology, boom, my business is suddenly going to change. And it's like, no. The technology is not going to be doing it. It's just a tool to help enhance what you already had in place. So if you had the right systems, the right structure, the right order, planning, organization, everything, the technology is just going to come and, help that take off, move and enhance that. If you didn't have these processes in place, if you didn't have this right planning, then whatever technology you bring, it's not going to fix it. So it's very important to understand that as a tool. So when you understand it as a tool, then you're like, okay, I have these problem areas. And again, we talked about this earlier on in terms of the networking. And it's a good thing that you're already doing something like this, where I hope in your meetings, you have a space where you create, for example, in the area of technology, and say, oh, these are the new advances in technology for these businesses, for these small businesses. So encouraged to do that. And I hope even besides this setting, they have other places where they can go and they get sharpened, on what's going on. Because, for example, we've been using this term technology, but there's specifics like applications, apps. There are different apps for all these different areas. And you will need people who are in the same community who will tell you, oh, do you know about this app? We're using this app now. It can do these little things for you that will save you all this time, like, doing taxes, you can do your taxes yourself if you've been using this app for a long time, so things like that. So being, again, in those platforms and communities will help you know how much you should invest in terms of technology, what you should invest and what's applicable, and then learning also from other people's mistakes. Because there are others who have already gone before, who have invested a lot, and then they will tell you, oops, it's like saying, oh, that's a dead-end street. Don't go there. So you listen, you learn from the others' mistakes, and others will be like, oh, yeah, you go there, but when you reach this part, don't go too much that way, So I hope that helps bring some more insight in terms of how we deal with this.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Nice to hear. Thais, you have any other brilliant questions? Well,
yeah, actually, I would like to be talking with them like the whole day, but I'll tell you something. Afterwards, I'm going to be with them, so I'll be able to.
That's great.
Many other questions, but because for me, like the main point here, like I don't know. Sometimes people think that like if you were a missionary, you just need to like leave everything behind and then serve God. And as we were talking today, I remember. The thing is, like, we understand that, like, in the marketplace in our life, what we could do is, like, God, like, Lord, like, I'm here with everything I have, with everything I know, and everything is yours. Just let me know how, like, what am I supposed to do? How can I serve you? And how can I praise Lord inside the marketplace? So the thing is, I would like to know a little bit, like, if you have, like, words or, I don't know, things that you would like to add about this, like how can we mix like faith and work? How can we share gospel? How you understand the marketplace as a place where we can actually accomplish our purpose here in earth?
Wow. That has been so admirable about you, Thais. You're one of the few people I've met who has both faith and works in one place, because many times we try to separate them and we think you can walk a journey of faith without works. And then there are some who will be on the works without faith. So it's really a gift to find people like you who are grappling with that, yet you're living it. Hearing your story, it's also beautiful to watch. So how do we encourage each other? I think that would be the question. Encourage each other to know that the right hand and the left hand, they both need each other, and just having that blessing to understand that everything that we have has come from God and everything we are is God. And if I've been given the ability to breathe, I've been given, I will account for every moment. So you could come and hide your talent, because we have resources, your time, your talent. You might hide your talent and decide to sit in church a whole day and wait and pray. But even in that church, there is someone who is paying the bills. There is someone cleaning. There is someone, So there is always work going on. And how can you be contributing to society? I'll share a funny example. Once our son came and asked both of us, so why do you work? And I thought, he was still really young, and I remember giving him such an economist response. Yeah. My husband, wise as he is wiser than me. He tells my son, well, I work so that I'm not a nuisance to society. And I think it stuck in him that You work so that you're giving back to society. You're paying taxes. Every time I see, roads that are going well, I'm like, yeah, I contributed to this. I pay taxes. It should be something that all of us have. God created us not to just come and sit on the planet, but to replenish it, to multiply it. If I found it 1, I should leave it 2. If I found it 2, I should leave it 4. You can't do that without faith. You can't do that without works. Those two go hand in hand. So how do we walk that journey of my works? Everything I do is going to be to the glory of God. Again, God created the day in 7 days. The world in 7 days. He was the planner. He planned everything. And then he created the rhythm of us to Sabbath, to rest, and then start at it again, So it's just to know that you're one. It's like my spirit is the same as my body, same as my soul. You could try to separate them, but, it is me, and that is what my faith should call me to do this work so that I can reach and bless. Our family vision, for example, is to be a blessing to the world, to the largest blessing to the world. We can't be the largest blessing to the world if we could pray for them, which we do as a family, we do pray. But there are other ways we can be a blessing. Being present is being a blessing. Giving of our talents is being a blessing. Giving our tithes and resources is being a blessing. So there are so many ways we can choose to be a blessing instead of, he also likes telling the kids, this world has 2 kinds of people. They are consumers and they are producers. You don't want to be on the side of just being the consumer.
I like so much your answer, and I like this idea of God as the owner of everything and the biggest investor, and then He will just put the resources to those who actually will give back the profit, and the profit that He wants, what He cares about is about those blessings, those lives that are getting impacted through our life. So that's really nice to see you are living this, and I truly understand that, like, as entrepreneurs or business and men, businesswomen, we should do this. Like, we have this talent, we have this resource, we have this gift, and what we have to do now is like to work hard and to deliver more and more to the kingdom.
Yes.
I think that's what we are meant to be. So good to have you here. So good to hear.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, our time is almost up. So first of all, thank you so much for all this time, for your presence, for everything that you guys shared with us. It's such a blessing moment for us here. And may God bless you guys as well, your families, your endeavors, and all your plans. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us here in this time.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, the pleasure is all ours. Thanks, Thais. Thank you, Albert. We've enjoyed every moment, and count us in to be in this partnership, this kingdom partnership.
Amém. É isso aí, pessoal. Você acompanhou então mais um episódio aqui do Kingdom Podcast, aqui com a liderança da Thais, né? Eu só estou emprestado aqui da área de comunicação aqui da nossa igreja, mas com a Thais, com o Ismael, tem nos liderado aqui à frente. Que você possa seguir a gente nas redes sociais, compartilhar também esse conteúdo aí para mais e mais pessoas e fazer parte também desse ministério, desse projeto, dessa iniciativa aqui para abençoar aí homens, mulheres de negócios aí para entenderem o seu propósito aqui na Terra, né? Para o que você foi criado, o tempo que você tem aqui nesse planeta. Qual é a sua visão? Qual é o seu plano? Qual é o seu chamado que Deus construiu para a sua vida durante esse tempo que você tem aqui? E como você pode usar o seu negócio para alcançar vidas e transformar histórias aí também, no nome de Jesus. Que Deus abençoe você. A gente se vê aí no próximo Kingdom Podcast.